My name is Vera Hertz. Today's date is the 24th of July, 1996. I am conducting an interview with Rita Molony in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the United States. And the interview is being conducted in English. The way it was given to you when you were born.
Okay, my name is Rita Bauchwitz. I was Rita Bauchwitz. My parents named me Rita. And later on, when the Nazis came to power, they added Sarah, which I didn't know since I just saw the papers recently. So actually I got Rita Sarah Molony.
Would you spell your name for me the way it is spelled today? Rita.
Oh, Rita?
Yes.
Rita, R-I-T-A.
And your last name?
My M-O-L-O-N-Y.
Thank you. In what city were you born?
Halle dash Saale.
Would you spell that for me, please?
Halle is H-A-L-L-E dash S-A-A-L-E, Germany.
In Germany. And what is your birth date?
Well, 10/11/21.
October 11, 1921.
Right,
So how old are you today?
Oh, getting older. That's, I'm 74 right now.
Right now you're 74. When you were small, where did you live most of the time?
Well, just in the same city, Halle, till I left Germany.
Until you left Germany. So you spent your childhood
in Halle.
In Halle. How many of you, your siblings, were in your family?
I have just one brother, one older brother.
And so in your family you lived with?
My father, mother, and my brother and myself.
What was your father's name?
Paul Bauchwitz.
And what was his business or trade?
He was a wholesale merchant, and he traveled for our business.
In any particular line that he had?
Yes, he has mostly dry goods and knitting wools, all kinds of clothing articles.
He was a tradesman,
well,
a businessman.
Businessman, yes.
Was he away a lot, or was he with you in the family?
Well, I didn't see much of him. He was gone a lot. Besides, we had a lady taking care of us. We had a maid and also a lady who took care of the children, so we didn't see our parents too much.
But your mother lived with you?
Yes.
And she was there? You said we didn't see our parents too much?
Well, she worked my father's business.
Also.
And we went to school, and we had our meals together, and that's about it. I didn't see not too much. Except on vacation. We used to go on vacation sometimes, every year.
And when you were young, was there any kind of religion, tradition in your home?
Yes, Judaism and not really religious, unorthodox, just
traditional?
Traditional, yes.
Such as what? Can you talk a little bit about
well,
that?
we had to go to temple every Saturday. We kept all the holidays, all the Jewish, Passover and so on. We kept all these different traditional holidays. We had religious instructions every week. We had our cantor usually instructed us in Hebrew and history of the Jewish religion.
Would you have any recollection about any particular holidays that meant something for you, like Passover?
Well, yes, we kept Passover. We had the regular, every night, the traditional meals, and somebody said the Haggadah.
And who came to be your guests, if any?
Mostly, we were alone. I don't remember that. I don't. Maybe my relatives, some of my relatives, local relatives. But I don't really recall that too much.
maids you just mentioned, you said one in the house and one for the children. Were they Jewish?
No, no.
Were they with you when you had the holiday celebrations?
I imagine so, but I don't remember that. I honestly can't recall it. Because we didn't have, we had a lady, I think we have little children, but after we were 7 or 8, we didn't have it. We just had a maid.
Tell me a little bit about your brother, as to his age and what his name is.
My brother his name is a PhD Dr. Liedbert is his real name, but he's called Peter Bauchwitz. He's married, has 4 children. He lives in Delaware. He's now retired. He used to be working with DuPont, and now he's still teaching at the university. He teaches German. And he works with his wife because she's a psychiatrist, so he still works in her office. And he's very active.
When you were little, together, growing up, and were you close in age?
Close in age, yes, about a year apart.
1 year.
1 year.
And as you were growing up, do you remember your childhood with him? Were you
Yes.
good friends?
We never got along. Never got along. And we had completely different interests. He was very intellectual and very, actually a genius, and very eccentric, even in those days, and he didn't make friends too well. And I just, myself, was just go to school, I went to school, but I didn't know at that time what I wanted to do. Just having fun, I guess, so wasn't. Of course, we had a lot of sports events. We all joined sports clubs, and I was always active in sports.
How old were you at that time?
Oh, I was very young. Oh, God.
Sorry.
I don't know how to turn it off.
You were very young.
Very young, yes. And let me see, where was I?
You're talking about your interest in sports.
Oh, yeah, yes. We always were in sports. We played games against, like handball. We played teams. And I was always interested in tennis, but when it was time for me to join a tennis club, the Nazis shut it down. Every time I was ready to do something like going to photography school or anything else, the Nazis shut it down. So,
well, that was later when the Nazis started becoming.
Oh, yes, I got ahead of myself.
And about your earlier childhood, let's talk about the 20s. Do you have any recollections that stand out for you that meant something for you?
No, not really. I went to
Because you went to school.
We moved to a different location. Yes, one is an unpleasant experience, which I don't know if I should mention. It goes with, but it's a very prevalent now molestation. That one event, which I always get killed. That's such a, and my parents were very upset, and there was, I don't know if I should bring this up. It's a little bit too.
That's
one of my friends got murdered. One of the girls got murdered at the same time. Even in those days, they had already. It wasn't as bad as it's now.
Was it? Are you talking about the period when you were a child?
Yes, I was about 7 years old.
You were 7 years old.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten that.
So you have a bad memory of what happened to you and
your
your
friends. It's the only thing I really
friends.
remember, yes. And we played a lot in the park. We used to play after school. We had a lot of homework to do. We came from school. We went 6 days to school at that time, and we did a lot of homework. And that was...
Describe the place where you were living then before you had to make that move. Was it an apartment? Was it a house?
We always had apartments now. In Germany, you had to be very wealthy in those days to have a house. We had an apartment, and then we moved to a different location, another apartment. It was nice. And as a matter of fact, the last apartment we had, where our business was together. We had a part of business and part apartment.
So was there a lot of activity going on when you
Oh,
had
yes.
business?
Oh, yes.
What were some of your recollections, what are some of your recollections about the feeling of anti-Semitism?
Well, Halle was pretty good about this. We didn't have too much. When we went to high school, which was a lyceum, which actually more than a preparatory for
About
college.
what year would you recall?
That was, oh gee, oh, it was, it must have been in the 30s.
In the early 30s?
Sometime in the
high
30s,
school?
Actually, it wasn't too much, wasn't too bad.
What sort of friends did you have?
Well, mostly Jewish girls, mostly. We had some non-Jewish too. Oh yes, I had some non-Jewish too.
Your closest friends, for instance?
Oh, my cousin was my closest friend, and she, of course, died in the Holocaust. One of my
And
friends.
she was Jewish?
Yes.
And other friends were mixed?
Yeah,
you're saying?
well, some were Jewish, and of course, like I said, when I went back to, well, I don't want to go ahead of myself, but I saw some again after all these years, 4 years ago. But mostly Jewish friends. I didn't have too many friends. I was pretty much of a loner, actually. I like to come home and read. I love to read and play with my dolls. And my parents made me go out and play. I didn't want to go out. I wanted to just, and I used to read all the time, even at night in bed with a flashlight.
Do you have any special recollections of the early 30s? What happened in your family? Anything at all?
Well, we had marriages. My uncle got married, and we went to the wedding. And in summertime, we went to visit our relatives in the different parts of the country, spent some time with different relatives. My mother took me to Wiesbaden, which is a beautiful place. When I was a teenager, that was. We traveled quite a bit in Germany during vacation time. My father had a car, which was unusual in those days, but he used it for business and also for pleasure.
So he traveled around a lot.
Yes, oh yes, it did.
Do you recall when Hitler actually came to power, how that was for you
Well,
in
it
1933?
was in 1933, and at those days I was still, what was it, 10, 11 years old, I guess. And I guess when you're that age, you don't really as concerned as when you get older. And at first it wasn't noticeable.
Was not noticeable
Not
in
at
your
first.
school?
No, yes, not at first. But then when I went to the high school, and my brother went also to preparatory to college, the Jewish people had one difficulty. They said everybody had to pay double tuition. So my parents couldn't afford it, and so naturally I had to leave school. And my brother couldn't stay in the same school. They transferred him to another one, and he was so brilliant. When he went to concentration camp to leave Germany, and afterwards leave Germany, he graduated a year ahead of time. That's how brilliant he was.
But so this was for you when you couldn't go to high school anymore. You called what year that was?
That must have been, oh gee, let me see, 15. I would say 1936 or 7. Yes.
So you were about 16 years old.
No, 15 and a half, 15 years. And then my parents sent me into a private business school. I learned shorthand. As a matter of fact, my shorthand was so good that the Nazis had a certificate by the Nazis, achievement.
What did it say?
I don't remember.
What do you think it said?
Well, just that I just was an excellent student, and I guess good speed, whatever. I don't remember, but I know I did get that. And after I left there, I had a job helping some people liquidate the business after the Jewish people started liquidating. And I know we had some very dear friends who owned a very large department, owned a large department store. And they came to dinner and they begged us, come with us to South Africa. My father said, no, I'm German, was a soldier in the war, I don't have to leave the country.
How did you feel when you heard that, when you heard your father talk like that?
I don't know, I must have been 34, 35. I don't really remember. My mother, I know, wanted to leave. She really wanted to leave. My father said no, which was very stupid.
So you were not really involved in your parents' decision at the time, you're saying, because you were too young? Or?
We were never included in decisions.
You were not
never.
included?
No. And people were different in those days. They were very strict. You couldn't do anything what they didn't approve of. No. So these people left, and at that time you could take all your possessions, all your money. till about 36, then they started clamping down that you couldn't take anything.
But your father had decided to stay anyhow. His business
Yes. He was
was
still, had
still
his
going?
Oh, yes. And besides, like, he was very stubborn. He said, I'm not leaving. He said, I'm a German. That was the first. He was first a German and then a Jew. And my mother, of course, had to go along with it.
Would you say, you mentioned earlier your mother was ready to leave. She would have
Oh,
wanted
she would have,
to.
yes, she would definitely, yes. Yes, she was much more intelligent in those decisions.
So it was kind of second. She was a Jew first and then a German.
No,
or-
not necessarily, but I think she had more foresight. And she saw friends, people we knew, leaving.
How about your personal friends? Did you see any of them leave?
Well, no, not really, not at that time, no. I know I started going to a school, a Berlic school. There was a language school to get my languages
How
better.
old were you then?
I was about 16, 17.
And what did you take up to study?
English. I learned English. And I had French also in school. And I remember there was one man who was going to take me to Shanghai with him to get married. And of course I was too young. He was much older. So it wouldn't have been good anyhow. But they all went to Shanghai. Many people went to China. A lot of my relatives, friends.
In the years of 1936, 1937?
Approximately, yes. I would say.
Something like that.
Yes.
In Halle, what was going on that you experienced as far as the Nazis were concerned?
Well,
I'm talking about marches and
oh, they had
Hitler
a
Youth
lot of
and-
marches, and I think they had a lot of things going on.
Can you recall
assemblies.
anything?
I don't
still-
exactly know because we stayed away from it. I know they had a lot of meetings and so on, and I could see people were, my voice is going. People were, can I drink a little bit?
Sure.
People started to shy away from you at that time. They wouldn't associate